Hello and welcome to Yoga with Rach. I'm Rach, thank you very much for joining me. Welcome to week 3 of our Apana Vayu. So we're going into our grounding practice and we're going to have a go with our earth flow salutation that we practiced last week. But we're also going to mix it up, so we're going back into the hips, really checking in again with the hip flexors and seeing how they're feeling. But we're going to start standing. So coming up and find your way towards the top of your mat. Want a little bit of room in front of you so you're not right on the edge. And just take the feet about hip width apart, roll the shoulders. Just be aware of rooting down through the feet. Have a slight bend in the knees so you're not locking into the legs. And let the arms relax. Focusing on the breath. You might have the eyes open or closed. Just see what happens when you do close the eyes. Do you notice that you're swaying? Are you lifting any part of the feet? As you inhale, raise the arms up. Exhale, folding forward. Bringing the fingertips or the palms of the hands to the mat, chin to chest. Inhale, halfway lift, lifting the chin. Leave your right foot where it is. Step your left foot back into runner's lunge. So you might have checked in with this one last week. You might have gone into low lunge, but we're keeping the knee lifted. So we've got the right knee over the ankle, lifting the chin, so you're drawing the body forward, but keep that left leg active. So rather than dropping the knee, push the heel back. So you've got this movement forward and back in your runner's lunge. Now, if you practiced the low lunge to half splits practice we did before Christmas, then this is a variation of that. So from our runner's lunge, we're going to go into pyramid pose. So you're starting to walk the hands back, gently draw the hips back, start to straighten the right leg, bend into the elbows. You might let the head relax towards the knee, focusing on the breath. Lifting the chin and walking the hands forward. Bring the right knee over, the ankle pushing the left heel back. Keep that slight lift of the chin. You might really feel that in the hamstrings, so make sure you keep a bend in the right knee as much as you need to. We're going to do that 2 more times. So walking the hands back, start to straighten the right leg. Just looking at the knee, so you're not looking forward, so let the neck, the shoulders relax. You don't have to get your head or the chin onto the knee. So you might be more here, you might be here, that's fine. Walking the hands forward, right knee over your ankle, push the left heel back. So last one, slowly pull the body back, straightening the right leg, chin in towards the chest. Maybe you've got chin or forehead to your knee, but just go with what feels right for you. Slowly walking forward. Once you've got yourself back in your runner's lunge, so right knee over your right ankle, gently step the left foot forward and fold. You might really feel that difference in one leg. Inhale, lifting all the way up to standing, raise the arms up. And exhale, release the arms down. Have a breath. Check in if notice that difference. Right leg to the left leg. One's worked, one hasn't yet. Relax the shoulders. Really rooting, finding that foundation through the feet. On an inhale, raise the arms up. And exhale, folding forward. Inhale, halfway lift the chin. And exhale, fold. So this time, as you inhale, lift the chin. We're going to keep the left foot where it is and step the right foot back. So you're keeping the right knee lifted for your runner's lunge rather than keeping the knee on the mat for low lunge. Left knee is over your ankle. You're gently pushing the right heel back. So as much as you're drawing the hips forward, looking forward, but also you've got a slight pull of the movement back. So we're slightly going into a slightly different Vayu movement here. But really be aware of that rooting down. So the left foot's rooting down. You're pushing the right heel back, so you're allowing yourself to root more into the toes, the ball of the right foot. Notice any difference even here as we then start to walk the hands back, pull the hips back, start to straighten the left leg, gently tucking the chin in towards the chest, focusing on the breath and drawing the body forward. Walk the hands forward, left knee over the ankle, lifting the chin, focusing on the breath. So we're going to do that 2 more times, nice and slowly, taking your time. Walk the hands back. You might be on the fingertips of fists, palms of the hands. Left leg starts to straighten. It might be a tiny movement, perfectly fine. Chin might be tucking in towards the chest. You might have the chin on the forehead, resting on the knee. Slowly drawing forward, runner's lunge, walk the hands forward so you get that movement forward and back. So like we move from downward dog into plank, really be aware of that forward and backward movement. Last one, draw the hips back, start to straighten the left leg. Focus on the breath, make sure the shoulders are relaxed, they're not pushing up towards the ears. Slowly drawing forward. Once you're in that runner's lunge, step your right foot forward and fold. Push into the feet, inhale, all the way up. And exhale, lower the arms down. Leave your left foot where it is, step your right foot back. Or you might go to the side so you can see. But from here, we're going to keep the feet wide. You might have the toes pointing out. You might have the feet parallel. See what feels comfortable for you. And start to fold forward. You might need to take the feet a bit wider. You might take the feet a bit closer together. And we've got the hands on the mat underneath the shoulders. So you might even want to use a block here. So you've got a little bit more elevation so it's comfortable on the hands. Hands are roughly underneath the shoulders rather than back towards the feet. Keep your left hand on the mat or on your block. Start to raise the right arm up. So if you practiced last week's practice, you might have done it last week, you might have done that before this week's. We did our easy twist in our lunge. And now we're checking in with it in our wide forward fold. Slowly bring the right hand down, place it onto the mat, onto the block, and twisting to the left, left arm lifts. Just go as far as feels comfortable. So you might find one side you can really lift up, the other side not so high, perfectly fine. Bring the left hand down, and we do that 2 more times. So left hand on the mat or on the block, twisting to the right, right arm lifts. Focusing on the breath. Bringing the right hand down. Once the right hand lands, twisting to the left, reach the left arm up. And bring the left hand down. Last one each side. Twist. Right arm lifted. Bringing the right hand down. Once that lands, start to lift the left arm up, twisting gently to the side. And bringing the left hand down. You might stay here, just nice and light on the hand. You might start to bend the elbows. Maybe you're holding onto the elbows, finding a ragdoll. Maybe you take the feet a little bit wider if that's comfortable. And you start to fold. Again, if you've got a block, you might be utilising the block here to bring your forehead and cram your head down towards the mat. Or maybe it's there. So find where it feels comfortable. So really allow yourself to relaxing, nice and stable in the feet. There's no forcing. Allow yourself to go with the flow in your practice. Flowing, not forcing. Even when we're not moving, we're not going through a flow. Just allow your body to relax. And we can start to lift back up. Once you're halfway, you might start to walk the feet in and come all the way up to standing. So again, if you practiced last week, we're going to go into our earth flow so we can bring ourselves down to the mat. So feet hip width apart. So I'm going to do the first one facing you and then go turn to the side. So feet are hip width apart, let the arms relax. Make sure you have room behind you, which is why I'm only going to do this facing you once, because I know I don't have enough room behind me because I've got the wall. So feet are hip width apart. You want to be at the top or the middle of your mat so you've got a bit of room behind you. As you inhale, raise the arms up and exhale, folding forward. Fingertips or palms of the hands to the mat. Inhale, halfway lift the chin, turn the toes out. And as you exhale, bend into the knees, sit down into your low squat. Hands can stay on the mat, you might lift the hands up. Heels might stay on the mat or heels might be lifted. When you're ready on an exhale, moving into your forward fold, turn the toes in, chin to chest, tailbone lifted. Inhale all the way up. And exhale, lower the arms down by the hips. So we're going to do that 2 more times. And the last one, we're going to linger in our low squat a little bit longer if it's comfortable for you to do so. Inhale, raise the arms up. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, halfway lift, lift the chin. Turn the toes out. And as you exhale, bend the knees, sit into your low squat, yogi squat or malasana. When you're ready on an exhale, we're going to move into that forward fold. Hands on the mat, turn the toes in, chin to chest, tailbone lifted. Inhale, all up. And exhale, lower the arms down. Have a breath or two in between. So last one, inhale, raise the arms. As you exhale, folding forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Turning out the toes. As you exhale, moving into your low squat. So if it's comfortable, you might linger here for a little bit longer. But otherwise, we're going to find our way to seated. So you're bringing your tailbone down onto the mat. So you might place the hands on the mat, bring the knees, the shins, the feet down and roll forward. You might bring the hands behind you and be able to place the tailbone down onto the mat. We're going to move into Sukhasana, easy cross-legged pose. And don't worry if it's not easy for you. It's just we call it easy cross-legged pose in comparison to, say, half lotus or full lotus pose. So you might use a block for this, but rather than having the block underneath the tailbone, you might have the block so you can rest your forehead, because we're going to check in with a couple of forward folds. So Apana Vayu is situated in the hips, the pelvis, so it's why we've been going into the hip flexors, the hamstrings, because that's what moves downward from that. But we're also having a little look at the lower back when we go into some seated forward folds. So notice which leg you have in front, doesn't matter which side you start with. So you might have the left leg or the right leg. Make sure you have one leg in front of the other, so you haven't got the feet pulling underneath the knees. Sitting up nice and tall, so rooting down nice and comfortably through the tailbone, roll the shoulders nice and tall through the spine. Bring the hands onto the mat or onto the block if that feels more comfortable. Start to bend the elbows and fold forward, and you can move the block. You might have the forearms on the block or onto the mat. Maybe you're using the block here for that extra support. Maybe you're folding down towards the mat or onto the block. So find what feels comfortable for you, but try to aim a little bit more for your lower back than into your hamstrings. So if you get here and you're like, oh, actually that feels quite nice for my lower back, but as you go deeper into the forward fold, you feel that more into the hips, the hip flexors and the hamstrings, but just sit up a little bit higher. So you don't have to go into the full expression of the pose every time you're here, because each expression has different points to draw you into your practice. So if you're higher up and you feel this more in one part of the body, and then you're deeper into the practice, you feel that in another. And don't worry if you can't get deeper into the forward fold, that you haven't got your forehead on the mat, that you think you'll be missing out. Just means that that's the point where you really need to focus on anyway. And it's always remembering, if someone goes to their full degree and that is really deep into the pose, and they can be missing out on getting that stretch that little bit higher. So slowly lifting back up, and we're going to change the cross of the legs. So this may feel very, very different. It may feel exactly the same. Just make a note of how you feel. Notice any differences in the body, like one knee might be slightly higher. You might feel this a bit more in one hip, and that's perfectly fine. Take your time as you start to fold forward. Just gently going through those expressions of what feels right for you. And maybe this side it feels more comfortable to go that little bit further. And when you're ready, slowly coming back up. We've got one more. So stretching the legs out, give the legs a bit of wiggle, point and flex the feet. From here we're going to bend the knees, Drop the knees wide, bringing the feet together, going into bound angle pose. And again, go with what feels right for you in the legs and the hips and the knees. So I know I prefer to have the feet further away, even if I know I can bring the feet closer in towards the groin or the hips and the knees and on the mat, because I know a lot of us find we get to here, but if that's where you're comfortable, then that's perfectly fine. You might have the block in between the feet, so as you start to fold forward, you can rest in your forward fold. So notice the difference between your cross-legged forward fold and your bound angle forward fold. Does one feel much more accessible than the other? And that's perfectly fine, perfect normal. Focusing on the breath and trying to keep that awareness that we're stretching into the back. So if you feel that too much going on into the legs, then lift up that bit higher. And you might stay here in your forward fold. You might start to move into Savasana. Otherwise, I will be here next week for our last practice for focusing on the Apana Vayu, that downward grounding movement. So thank you very much for joining me, and I shall see you next week. Namaste.